So today we will discuss a very important topic, that is air pollution. And this is simply a brief overview of what are the pollutants which is present in the air, which is dangerous to the human as whole and animals, plants, everybody. For everybody, the air pollutant is very, very much disturbing. So the first question arises, what is air pollution? Air pollution can be defined as the presence of toxic chemicals or compounds in the air at level that pose a health risk, isn't it? So let us suppose if I will say that the percentage of nitric oxide in the atmosphere, the desirable level or the permissible level is X percentage. And if the percentage of that compound in the atmosphere, it will be more than X, then we will say that it is air pollution. So there is a limit for everything else. Here, there is also a limit for each and every gas which is present in the atmosphere. If the amount of gas or amount of compound will increase from a desired level, then it will call a pollution. If it is present in the air, then it is air pollution. So air pollution can have short-term and long-term effects. These effects has been seen not only on human beings, but on every type of plants and animals. Whether it belongs to cat family, whether it belongs to reptile, whether it belongs to plant family or anybody. There is short and long-term effect of air pollution on each and every living thing. Short-term effects include irritation to the eyes, nose and throat, and upper respiratory infections such as bronchitis and pneumonia, isn't it? So basically, short-term effects includes the respiratory problems. You will have some itching type of problem in your eyes, in nose, throat. So short-term problem. And long-term problem, if anybody will be in the presence of air pollution for a long time, then he will face long-term health effects, which may include some damages to the kidney, damages to brain, may have to face the lung cancer. So lot type of problems can come. The extent to which an individual is harmed by air pollution usually depend on the total exposure to the damaging chemicals. So total exposure means for how many times, for how many hours he is exposed, how he is exposed, which part of the body is exposed, it all comes into total exposure. Now, as far as the classification of air pollutants are concerned, there may be many different type of classifications which has been done, but presently I am showing here only a very simple way to differentiate the air pollutant, how we will make some category. So first of all, the air pollutant, it may be solid, it may be liquid, it may be gas, based upon whether it is solid, whether it is liquid, or whether it is gas. So example of solid and liquid may be aerosol particles, and carbon dioxide is one of the example of gaseous air pollutant. The air pollutant may be primary or it may be secondary, isn't it? So primary air pollutant, what is that? So primary air pollutants are basically their original chemical form. If a gas can retain the original chemical form, then it is primary air pollutant. And if it cannot retain, or it may have been derived from primary air pollutant, then simply it is secondary air pollutant. So for example, the example of secondary air pollutant is ozone, isn't it? Okay, basically we have to go through these type of air pollutants, gaseous air pollutants. So it both include the gaseous and some solid particles is also there. So oxides of sulfur, oxide of nitrogen, this is volatile organic carbon, this is particulates, and ozone. Basically these type of pollutants are present in the atmosphere, our atmosphere, and the amount after a permissible limit, if it will cross, then they can cause very serious issues. So sulfur dioxide and nitric oxide are the primary air pollutant out of this, and ozone is a secondary air pollutant. Now we will talk about sulfur dioxide. So what is the characteristic of sulfur dioxide? So it is colorless gas with a pungent, suffocating odor. And most of the sulfur you will get from the fossil fuels. When it comes from fossil fuel, when it comes into the atmosphere, after burning, it gets converted into sulfur dioxide. And this sulfur dioxide is dangerous. Main phytoplankton produce dimethyl sulfide, which is also known as DMS, which is then oxidized to SO2 in the atmosphere. So this DMS, around 90% of all natural sulfur emission come in the form of DMS, isn't it? So you have to know this figure also. Almost 90% of all natural surface emission come in the form of DMS. SO2 is also emitted into the atmosphere by volcanoes. So this is a natural source of emission. What can be the effect of sulfur dioxide? So short-term effects there may be irritation in eyes, irritation in nose, throat. Long-term effect, it may damage the lungs, isn't it? Or it can may cause acid rain when it get interacted with the rainfall. It can acidify the lakes, it can acidify the streams. It may destroy plant and fish life in lakes and stream. So when some acid will go in the water body, certainly all the organisms, whether it is animals or plant, it will get affected. If the acid rain will come in contact with some metal, it may get corroded. For example, the copper and the iron, they get corroded when acid rain take place. They can also have the capability to damage the surfaces of building. Okay. Now, oxides of nitrogen. Nitrogen oxides come in air due to interaction of atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen within the combustion chamber. So what does this combustion chamber means? So let us suppose the combustion chamber may be of some thermal power plant. It may be of some automobile industries, in the bikes, in the any transportation vehicle you take, it may come generated from that also, isn't it? So nitrogen oxides come in the air due to interaction of atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen within the combustion chamber. Nitric oxide is a colorless gas. Nitrogen dioxide is a reddish brown color with a distinct shape, between order. So basically the oxides of nitrogen, we have to study this nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide. Combustion of fuels always produce both NO2 and NO. So whenever any type of fuel, whether it is petrol, whether it is diesel, whenever it will be burned, then these two, NO2 and NO, that will get released in the system and they can cause problem. If we will talk about the natural presence, then nitric oxide is naturally emitted by soil also. So from soil also you will get nitric oxide. almost 90% of the NOx, X here represent, it may be 1 or 2, both NO2 and NO, that is NOx. Combustion produced is in the form of NO, which is then oxidized to nitrogen dioxide in the air. And as far as the anthropogenic sources of NOx is concerned, in major part it is coming from road transportation. We are using the vehicles, the fuels we are using the vehicles, and it is also coming from power plants, isn't it? Thermal power plants, which is producing the electricity, from there we are getting. So this is the anthropogenic sources. The natural sources is the emission from the soil. What can be the effect of nitrogen dioxide? So certainly this is an air pollutant. So first effect we have to remember, then whenever there is an air pollutant, it will damage the respiratory system. So when it will go, we will inhale it, certainly it can damage the lungs. It can infect our noses, throat, something like this, from where it will pass, isn't it? So it can affect the lungs. It may cause the acid rain, and it may contribute to photochemical smog. Now, ammonia. Ammonia is a colorless, pungent, hazardous caustic gas composed of nitrogen and hydrogen. So basically this is NH3. And from where this ammonia is generated, the biggest source of ammonia is agriculture, isn't it? The livestock farming and animal waste account for the biggest percent of total ammonia. So the largest producer of ammonia, or the emitter of ammonia, is the agricultural practices. It is coming from livestock farming. So livestock, approximately 50% of all emission, isn't it? It constitutes the 50% of all emission of ammonia, livestock. Then fertilizer application into the agricultural fields is also responsible. From oceans also ammonia is created. From vegetations and biomass burning is created. What can be the consequence of it? If we will get exposed for a long time of ammonia gas, so it can cause lung cancer or lung problems, and it can also cause the death. Now, volatile organic compounds. What is volatile organic compounds? So those organic compounds which easily evaporate. So it is volatile. That means which can come into the atmosphere very, very easily, or which can get converted into gas very easily. So organic compounds which easily evaporate and enter into the atmosphere, those are volatile organic compounds. You can give the examples. For example, this benzene, toluene, xylene, isn't it? These are volatile organic compounds, and they are carcinogenic. That means they can cause some cancer type of things into the living being. Volcanic organic carbon, it include pure hydrocarbons, isn't it? In most of the cases, we do not include the methane into the list of volatile organic compound. So it includes pure hydrocarbon, partially oxidized hydrocarbons, organic compounds containing chlorine, sulfur, or nitrogen. If any organic compound contains these, we also include it into VOC. What are the anthropogenic sources of it? That means which is created by humans. So if anthropogenic sources are concerned, it may come from some solvent use, from road transport. It can come from extraction and distribution of fossil fuels. So naturally, fossil fuel is one of the great source of pollutant as far as air pollution is concerned. And as far as the natural source is concerned, it comes from forest by decomposition of some materials, isn't it? So basically, tropical forest, from tropical forest, VOC is coming. If some burning is taking place there in the forest, so from there also it will come into the system. Now, NMVOC, that means it is non-methane, volatile organic carbon. How it is generated? So it may get generated from, if we are painting, and during the painting, evaporation of solvent will take place, and in that solvent, if VOC is present, then it will come into the system, come into the atmosphere. So basically it comes from painting. It also comes from oil production. It also comes from refinery unit. So oil refinery is also responsible for that. Distribution of oil or refinery products. It can also come into the system from dry cleaning, and it is also coming into the system by production of alcoholic drinks. VOC also come into the system by arable farming. Now, ozone. Ozone is also important for us. This is ozone layer. When we talk ozone layer, so it is in a stratosphere, and it is naturally God-gifted layer which protect us from UV rays. All know these things. But this ozone is also created by anthropogenic sources. And if the ozone is created by anthropogenic sources, then it will be harmful. The natural source of ozone you will always get in stratosphere. And the anthropogenic sources of ozone you will always get in the troposphere. That means our sphere. Troposphere, in which all the living activities is in progress. Ozone is the main component of photochemical smoke. It can cause respiratory problems. It can infect the lungs, and it can also cause the asthma. And ozone has also capability to reduce the crop yield. Now we will talk about this particulate matter. Particulate matter are very small. It may be solid or liquid, which is suspended in the atmosphere. As far as the size is concerned, you can see dust particle is a type of particulate matter. Similarly, smoke is also a type of particulate matter. If the size of the droplet, or the solid or liquid droplet particle, if it is between 1 to 100 micrometer, then we will say that it is dust particle. And if the size, the diameter of the particle, if it is less than 1 micrometer, then we will say it is fumes or smoke. Certainly, the anthropogenic sources of the particulate matter is all the transportation vehicles which we run on the road. The dust and the smoke comes from vehicles that also contains the particulate matter. It is also coming from power plants, those power plants which is run by coal, which are using the coal. And the natural source of particulate matter, it is the erosion of soil. So when erosion of soil will take place from wind, certainly some small particles will come into the system. It will come into the atmosphere. So whenever the erosion of soil with the help of wind will take, this particulate matter will come into the atmosphere. Similarly, from the evaporation of seawater also, it can come into the atmosphere. From the emission of dust particle from volcanoes, forest fire, particulate matter are generally come into the atmosphere. Now, in 1952, in the month of December in London, a smog disaster has taken place. You can understand what is the power of this particulate matter. So if you will go into the brief history of this place at the time of 1950s. So what they used to do, because there is a lot of cold in that region, so they use coal for every type of purposes. So heating their rooms, they use the coal. For industries, they are using the coal, isn't it? So what happens finally? By burning of this coal, certainly the sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, this will get produced. So it has come into the atmosphere, and when a cyclone has hit that region, anticyclone, when that was present at that time in London, it has originated there, and when it get mixed with the smoke, the carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, then they form a smog. So smog is basically what is? Smog is the mixture of smoke and fog. If fog is there, there is not too much problem. But when the smoke will get mixed with fog, or some particulate matter, the amount of particulate matter in the fog, it will get increased, then it can cause serious problems. So a smog disaster in 1952 in London, it has killed almost or more than 12,000 people. Only in 1 month, and the after effect of that smog, it has also been noticed. So you can understand, if the amount of particulate matter, it will come into the system and it will stay there. And if it will mix with some fog, then it can create disasters. In India also, you can see this smog, not in too much quantity, but it get formed in many parts of India in the month of December, January, February. That means in winter months, because these months, in these months, fog is created, and when the smoke will get mixed with it, or the PM, particulate matter, will get mixed with it, certainly it will create smog type of situation, and it is dangerous for the respiratory system, our respiratory systems. Okay, there is one very nice pollutant, very harmful pollutant in the atmosphere, that is persistent organic pollutants. So persistent means which will remain in the system. So there are some chemicals which will, if it will get released into the system, it will take more than 1 year, 2 years, it will stay there. It will not go into the system. It will come into our food chain, the animal's food chain, and it can create a lot of problems. So persistent organic pollutants are those pollutants which are resistant to degradation and persistent in the atmosphere. That means from the atmosphere it will not go. So let us suppose when we talk about dioxins, if it will come into the system, it will remain there in the air for a long time. The examples which I have shown, dioxins, furans, aldrines, and dieldrines, indrines, these chemicals are basically used as insecticide, fungicide, isn't it? These are used in those type of things. So when we apply the insecticide, fungicide in the system, or we are using this dioxins, furans, andrines in the system, then they will remain there for a long time. They will remain in the atmosphere for a long time. That's why the government agencies in different parts of the world, they have advocated to stop the use of this POP, persistent organic pollutant. So some of the fungicide, it has been banned by EPA, Environmental Protection Agencies. Similarly, DDT is banned in our country. You cannot use DDT nowadays in country. Why we are banning this, or why the government is banning these chemicals, these pollutants? because they will remain in the system for a very long time. Some more examples are sources are pesticides, solvents, polyvinyl chloride, and medication. Now, acid rain is also a pollutant in the air. Basically, acid rain can take place when oxide of nitrogen and oxide of sulfur, when it will interact with the rainwater in the atmosphere. So oxide of sulfur and the oxide of nitrogen, it will interact chemically with the water in the atmosphere, and it will come into in terms of precipitation, which is known as acid rain. So basically, the acid rain, whom we will tell acid rain, so those rainfall whose pH will be less than 5.6. If the pH of the rain is less than 5.6, then it is known as acid rain. The high acidity of acid rain is due to excess man-made sulfur and nitrogen oxides reacting with water in the atmosphere. Basically, this acid rain is caused by two acids. One is the sulfuric acid and another is the nitric acid. This is simple chemical equations. How this sulfuric acid come into the system, come into the atmosphere, and it become acid rain. So you see some of the equations. So first of all, SO2, sulfur dioxide, which is in gas form, when it react with hydrogen, when it react with water, H2O of the atmosphere, then it create H2SO3. This sulfurous acid molecules then react with water, producing an equilibrium with H plus ion. So H plus ion will get formed here, and hydrogen sulfide will get formed, isn't it? Another way to produce it, sulfur dioxide can also react with oxygen. It can also react with oxygen to form SO3, and it can also react with ozone to form SO3. This SO3, when it react with water or the liquid which is present in the water vapor which is present into the atmosphere, it will form H2SO4, and from this H2SO4, this H plus ion will come into the system, and this H plus ion will increase the acidity of the rain. So you see how this H plus ion, extra H plus ion, when SO2 or SO3 will come into the atmosphere, it react with water, and finally this H plus ion get formed. These H plus ion are responsible for the acidic effect of acid rain. Now, nitric acid is also responsible for causing the acid rain. So when NO2, it will mix with ozone, it will make SO3 and O2. And when NO3, this NO3, when it will get reacted with hydrogen ion, hydrogen gas, then HNO3 will form, and from this HNO3 you will able to get this H plus ion. H plus ion. So this H plus ion, which you have got from HNO3, that will be responsible for increasing the content, increasing the amount of H plus ion in the rainwater, which is finally known as acid rain. Basically, this acid rain, it impact on the metals. So it can make the iron corrode, isn't it? It can corrode the copper, it can corrode the iron. When from these equations, you can see that how it can able to affect the copper. So when it react with copper, when acid rain come into contact of copper, then patina is formed, isn't it? And this patina is CoCO3. Similarly, it can also have the capability to load the iron, isn't it? Now, what is the effect of air pollution on agricultural crops? So here we will see only 3 types of problem which can come into the crops due to air pollution. One is chlorosis. Chlorosis is simply if anyhow the plant will not able to do the process of chlorophyll, or the loss or reduction in chlorophyll, it will happen into the plant, then it is known as chlorosis. Why there will be reduction in chlorophyll? Because if droplets of particulate matter, or by any means some dust particle will get collected on the leaves of the tree or the plant or the crops, certainly that area will not able to generate the food, it will not participate, so the amount of chlorophyll get reduced. So if this type of condition will come, then it is chlorosis. Another is the necrosis. The dead area on a leaf structure is referred to as necrosis. So from figure you can see these brown patches. So these brown patches are showing that these areas are dead, isn't it? So tissues are dead here. So if this type of thing will take place, then it may have caused due to necrosis. And necrosis is finally the result of air pollution. One is epinasty. So what you are seeing in this is a tomato plant, and what you are seeing here, that the leaves has bent. Leaves, it looks like that the leaves has dead, isn't it? It is not having any energy. So epinasty is the downward curve of the leaf due to higher growth rate on the upper surface, isn't it? So these are the 3 effects which generally takes place due to air pollution in crops. One is the chlorosis, and there is the necrosis, and there is the epinasty. So today we have seen what are the components which are responsible for air pollution. So basically, as far as the gaseous air pollutants are concerned, gaseous, it also includes the solid particles I am showing here. Particulate matters are solid or liquid particles. It is not only the gaseous particle, isn't it? So basically these are responsible factors for causing the air pollutant: oxide of sulfur, oxide of nitrogen, volatile organic carbon, particulate matters, and ozone. And we have also discussed each and every air pollutant and how it is produced naturally and anthropogenically. Isn't it? Okay.